as suggested earlier by President Cyril Ramaphosa, saying it was a communication error from the ruling ANC party. In a statement issued late Tuesday night, the presidency clarified that South Africa remains a signatory to the ICC. President Ramaphosa had earlier said the African National decided to withdraw South Africa from the court, which last month issued an arrest warrant against Russian President Vladimir Putin. The ICC warrant means South Africa, which is due to host this year's BRICS summit of Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa, would have to detain Putin on arrival. Meanwhile, in Mozambique, we have stories reaching us that the government has provided legal authority to a militia group to find an Islamic State-linked armed group locally known as Al-Shabaab in the north of the country. Opposition parties have called this local militia a paramilitary force linked to the ruling party. The Mozambican government first acknowledged it was collaborating with the militia in 2020. While media reports suggest that the group, largely consisting of demobilized soldiers, has been operational since 2018, when former soldiers first offered to fight the insurgency. The number of deaths connected to a suspected starving court in Kenya has increased to 98 after mass graves were found last week by authorities as family members eagerly wait word of their loved ones. The discovery of dozens of bodies buried in Shakahola forest near the coastal town of Malindi shocked Kenyans, with court leader Paul Mackenzie Nthenge accused of driving his followers to death by preaching that starvation was the only path to God. The state-run Malindi Sub-County Hospital, whose mortuary is already overflowing with several remains, has been mobbed by distraught relatives of the victims who are waiting to hear if their loved ones have been located. The search for further bodies is expected to start on Thursday. Staying in Sudan, moving to Sudan, the WHO chief Tedros Adhanom Ghebreyesus has told a press conference from the UN Health Agency headquarters in Geneva that more than 60% of health care facilities in Khartoum are closed due to the conflict in the capital, Khartoum.
In the capital, Khartoum, 61% of health facilities are closed and only 16% are operating as normal.
In the west of the continent, vehicular traffic was disrupted along the busy Jos-Abuja highway as members of the Foreign Lamba community barricaded the major highway in protest of an overnight attack by gunmen, which left 6 members of the community dead. Residents of the community accused security agencies of doing nothing to stop the killings, which have become common at the southern fringes of the state.
It's just my friend. Move wrong. Wanted to kill us. See people, they want to kill us. And see the people just they are going for rapid. Shoot that guy, one of my brother. Into him. We had the fight. I will carry this my brother when they shoot him for your leg. See them, they don't come and meet me. Just leave my brother. Just run. After that, just run. I follow that side. See some people there for that side. This side. These people when they run for this side. Some people there, they just shoot. They started shooting, killing these people.
We believe that why this incident attacks this time around is to reduce our numerical strength so that the census, our number will not be counted. And then, of course, there will be displacements of individuals. So this is part of the agenda of the ethnic cleansing that is being perpetrated on the Biron people and the Plateau people.
6 people were victims of the attack by unknown gunmen, whom some of them confirmed, because some of them escaped. There were about 12 here in the bush. The 6 that escaped confirmed to us that they had the people that made the attack are Fulani by tribe or by inclination. And to be very sincere, our people, I have known them to be very peaceful. The Fulani men have been grazing all over here. Nothing has happened to any of them.
Almost everybody knew that the attack was coming, but lo and behold, we had nobody to protect our people. It's sad that we live in a country where the hallowed chambers of the Plateau State House of Assembly is under key and locked by the police, who told the whole world that that place is locked because of security report. Yet everybody knew that these headers were going to attack, but nothing happened.
We're still in Nigeria, where following the court judgment which tried to resolve the leadership crisis in Nigeria's national oil company, the NNPCL, several groups have called on Nigeria's government to respect the court judgment in the interest of peace. One such group, a pro-rights organization based in the nation's capital, Abuja, accused the government of instigating the crisis by seeking to replace the non-executive chairman of the company.
This government should not fritter the resources of Nigeria to pursue an appeal that is of no moment to anybody. It has no effect. Why do you want to pass on a problem, a blunder you committed with your open eyes? You want to pass it on to a government that is coming? Or is it because the president-elect is from your party?
That's all on Breakfast Headlines. It's back to Joe Anusa for the rest of the program.
Thank you, Rita. Thank you, and thank you. I think one of the stories that we will keep hammering on is one, South Africa retracting, taking back the statements made by Siposa, and of course the situation going on in the northern part of Nigeria. Talk about as well Central, Jos and the likes.
Definitely, we'll keep our eyes on that. I mean, South Africa released a statement on Tuesday morning, and later on he said it was a mistake. Some people are still skeptical that could it actually have been a communication error, or maybe Cyril Ramaphosa is just really saying his mind that he wants the country out of the ICC. And we know that early in December, there were disputes in the ANC party of whether they should withdraw from the ICC based on comments of bias and geopolitical sentiments on the ICC. But the party has said that they would not withdraw from the ICC and they will go further. But at the same time, we wait till August. Will Russian President Vladimir Putin visit South Africa? And if it does, will the country have to detain him? That's the question on a lot of minds of South Africans.
It's political alliances, that we're seeing here. And yes, Vladimir Putin is, a major part of the thought process that is going on here. I'm sure that they maybe felt like they overstepped, with the decision to withdraw from the ICC, and the ANC and of course President Ramaphosa had to, maybe tell themselves to calm down. There's other ways that this could be handled. They didn't necessarily need to withdraw from the ICC. They'll buy time and figure out another way. But I'm sure that South Africa is, seemingly showing that they are very, very not loyal, but they have a great relationship with Russia and with Vladimir Putin, and they would not like to break that. So they'll figure out another way, to protect Putin and at the same time not be the bad egg in the world. But you will see how this turns. Thanks a lot, Rita, for these stories.
Thank you.
All right. Now let's go back to the newspapers this morning. Aside the news headlines, what can the newspapers also share with us? We'll be sharing them with you right next, starting here in Nigeria. And we begin in Nigeria and the Guardian newspapers. This is what the major headlines are here. The big one there says, marketers in limbo over implementation of $15.1 billion forex demand for fuel importation. On page 6 of the Guardian this morning, and this is with regard to subsidy removal. Remember, the current administration has said that subsidy will be removed right after they leave power sometime in June or July, I think, 2023. And of course, the new administration has to battle, with the implications of removal of subsidy. Court strikes out EFCC suit against Kogi Governor Yahaya Bello over asset forfeiture. And also, I am encumbered by scandals. Atiku replies Tinubu's serial loser jab. That's on page 6. And we can also find here Nigeria has the highest number of collapsed buildings in Africa, says SONDG. Deaths and delay, frustration on Lagos-Ibadan, endless road repair. They've been fixing that road for decades. I saw a picture that has been viral every now and then when it pops up, about a express road or something like that was fixed in China in about 3 days. Had major damage, was fixed in about 3, was it up to 3 days? It caved in, yeah. But the Lagos-Ibadan Expressway has been part of the budget every year for at least 10, 15 years. And it's still not completely fixed. No government has been able to sort it out completely. Good morning, Nigerians. Uncertainty trails emergence of new Alafin. These are the big stories on the Guardian newspapers, and we're going to move away from there and see what the Punch has for us.
All right, so let's move on to the Punch. The Punch newspaper has on the front page there, Sudan conflict, students lament slow evacuation, federal government to pay $1.2 million on page 2. We did have us directly from that area talking about evacuating some nationals, and he joined us earlier on. In case you missed it, you might want to go online. You'll find that interview very quickly. Only 15 out of 40 buses ready on Wednesday, conveyed 750 students. Minister says cost covers 19-hour journey. 19-hour journey. Security from Sudan to Cairo. So take note, the $1.2 million is not just for the bus or the luxurious buses, but also with the security and all that. So
$1 million is, roughly,
journey.
I mean, CBN rate about 420 million naira. And I mean, so let's 19 hours. It's still, I don't know. It still just doesn't.
Well, you can see pictures of the
400 million naira or 450 million. Okay, well, plus the extra $200,000. That's about 500 million naira
to evacuate the students. We'll get to hear what the students say about their experiences as well. 4,000 trucks to visit Lekki Port daily. TTP says that's a transit truck park. They're talking about 4,000 trucks to visit Lekki Port daily. It seems that good tidings or great things are starting to happen there at the Lekki Port. Well, LASG demolishes illegal buildings on Banana Island. 4 and 5 pages, you'll find it there. Police arraign Lagos spare parts dealer for assaulting housewife. Obi attacks INEC for defending Tinubu. Atiku claims victory. There's this statement made by the Labour Party presidential candidate. He's talking about INEC defending Tinubu in its responses in terms of having been served the prayers. And it's quite shocking to many who seem to say INEC is supposed to be an independent body.
Yes.
And not to have a choice. It's like an umpire officiating a tennis game,
yes,
and then says, oh no, I think you should win. I think you are playing better. Therefore, what that means is the umpire might switch and not remain loyal in its officiating.
But just like Olisa Agbakova SAN said, from Shehu Shagari's, I think I spoke about this a few days ago, Shehu Shagari's election and the Ways report, he mentioned that INEC should not be a party to the petition, if we're being serious.
Cash scarcity crippled Nigeria's economy. According to United Nations, Nigeria's economy is still dilly-dally and still struggling. Tinubu Speaker aspirant meet on zoning behind closed doors. That's also on page 8. And that's all we're going to take on the front page of the Punch. Yes. Well, let's go for a quick break. When we come back, our top stories are up next. It's the last and final hour on Breakfast Central on a Thursday. Stay with us.
News Central TV, Africa's #1 storyteller, has come with the best of both worlds. With a combination of news app and live TV, we ensure that you keep track of the latest headlines, breaking news, and in-depth analysis from professional journalists from around the continent. Download the News Central TV app on Android and iOS and get started today. Don't forget to follow us on News Central's social media platforms. News Central, Africa First.
The youth has 60% of its entire population, and it's time for their voices to be heard, loud and clear. Involving the young people in nation building is not merely a question of inclusion, but one that is vital for economic growth, innovation, peace and security. Fafanua Africa provides the platform for the teeming young and vibrant population of our dear continent to voice their concerns with one goal in mind. Provide profound and tangible solutions that will help redefine and reposition the future of Africa. Join us every Friday at 2 p.m. West African Time, 4 p.m. East African Time, and 3 p.m. Central African Time on News Central TV. Fafanua Africa, redefining Africa.
Africa is rising. Again, we hear our sounds echo on the other side. Afrobeat and Afropop reinvented, hip life brought back to life, new energy infused into Kwaito and Kwela. Africa is balling. Every stroke, every shot, every race, we find our place at the top. Taking the helm of real power, new hopes for democracies. A breed of entrepreneurial tigers, audacious storytellers, and a promising generation raring to go. Truly, Africa is rising. And this is where the stories that define our continent live.
And you watch Breakfast Central on News Central. We are broadcasting live from Lagos, Nigeria. Our top story starts here in Nigeria for this hour, where #1 Citizen President Muhammadu Buhari on Wednesday swore in 6 new permanent secretaries in the Federal Civil Service. The swearing-in took place at the Council Chamber Presidential Villa, Abuja, shortly before the commencement of the Federal Executive Council FEC meeting. The new permanent secretaries are Mahmoud Kambari, Borno State, Usabana Nkoasaye from Cross River, Lamua Ibrahim from Gombe, Yakubu Kofar Mata from Kano, Oloruntola Michael from Ogun State, and Richard Bilangwa from Taraba State. Now, while reading the citation of the new officers, Special Advisor to the President of Media and Publicity Chief Femi Adesina said the event marks the culmination of a week-long pre-qualification exercise for directors by the Office of the Head of Civil Service of the Federation. And this has taken a lot of reactions, bites, and has attracted even criticism. And these include statements such as, one, why will the president go ahead to swear in new secretaries when he's got nothing less than 32 or 31 days to go before the official handover during the inauguration come May 29th? And most importantly, why all of a sudden there seems to be, aside from swearing in, there seems to be a speed up of activities. Seems like there is a time frame that needs to be met before May 29th, or there are key activities that is being rushed over so as things can go on as planned.
Yeah, but I just would also mention, I see the criticism here and the comments. You know, I don't see anything necessarily wrong with it. You know, these are career civil servants. They wrote exams. They've gone through a process, of course, that, you know, has elevated them in their careers. And so if they, you know, need to be promoted to the position of permanent secretary, there's nothing wrong with it. It's either the president did it or the next administration did it. Somebody would have done it, at some point. So I personally don't see anything wrong with it. You know, it's you know, what should have been done. If they were ripe for promotion into, you know, as permanent secretaries, then yeah, he could do it. And you know, like I said, you know, if he didn't do it, I feel the next administration would have done it. So it's nothing, you know, awkward about it.
There's also talks about the president's sudden increase in activities, especially trying as much as possible to close down some actions, or I'll call it that way, some things that ought to have been done but weren't done, and now it seems like there's it's going to be done in a rush. That's also another concern far that many people are highlighting. We'll talk about funds that are being released very quickly, funds that are seeing monies go to projects that ought to have been focused on initially, even prior to the elections. And there's also defense to why that is so. Many have said it's because of the election season, which possibly started from September last year and took a toll on the president's focus on carrying out these tasks. But also bear in mind that the president is part of the ruling party, so his attention was needed in order to carry on that as well.
Yeah, you know, but you know, it also is a thing that Nigeria needs to learn from. You know, the fact that, you know, things do not need to be put on hold simply because of an election. We understand how important and how, you know, huge an electoral process is for the country, but the country must still, you know, go on. Things must continue to work, you know, as planned. Whether an election is taking place or not, we do not need to put the country on or suspend the workings of the country simply because of an election. And unfortunately, the election that, you know, the country was put on hold for didn't turn out to be one of Nigeria's best, you know, and there's a lot of criticism after, you know, spending 300 billion naira plus, and of course, you know, suspending many things. And if you notice, not just the presidency and the workings of government seem to have slowed down. Even businesses across the country slowed down. You know, in the last couple of months, they have been slow. If you look at entrepreneurs, vendors, everyone has had to put their lives on hold. Everyone. But you know what, like I said, you know, it doesn't need to be like that. The country needs to move on. The country needs to continue to work. Security needs, you've seen the comments where people say that kidnappings have begun, you know, post-election.
Yeah.
You know,
it was as if they took a dock, it took a break, and then all of a sudden, after the elections, they came back.
So it's either they actually did take a break, or there was just not enough reporting because everyone was focused on the elections.
We did have a guest who talked about that as well, said because there wasn't enough reporting, and it seems like a lot of people simply focused on the elections. Yes. But I beg to differ.
Yeah, well, I would also differ.
Yeah, I beg to differ. I think there was a break on that, because as soon as the elections were done, we all of a sudden started hearing the cases like the one we just talked about in the video you saw concerning Lantan and people, of course, in Plateau, Jos as well. But these are some of the reactions, and we're bringing them before you to let you know. But that's not all. There is another major one. Well, a federal high court in Abuja has dismissed the suit filed by Senator Aisha Dahiru Binani, the candidate of the All Progressives Congress APC in the last governorship election in Adamawa State. Now, she to seek judicial review of the decision by the Independent National Electoral Commission (INEC) to reverse her earlier announcement as winner of the election by the state's resident electoral commissioner, REC.
Yeah, at the mention of the case on Wednesday, her lawyer, Mohammed Sharif, informed the court about the notice of discontinuance filed by the plaintiff and prayed the court to strike out the suit. Now, joining us is Charles Ideho. He's a political analyst and he joins us from Lagos, Nigeria. Mr. Ideho, thanks for joining us. Can you help unmute your device? It seems you're still muted. We can hear you.
Oh, okay.
Now we can. Now we
That's
can.
fine. We can hear you.
Now we can.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Yes. Yes,
okay.
we can. Yes,
All
we
right.
can.
So,
I was saying that I'm glad to be with you one more time again today.
brilliant.
All right.
Thanks for joining us. Let's start with the outcome from the Adamawa elections, and of course the performance of INEC, the actions of Yunusa Ari, and all the drama that has ensued. Let's quickly get your thoughts on it.
Okay. Well, first, I think there are two cases in point. Or okay, I would say there are two ways I will look at it. On the one hand, I would say that we can now heave a sigh of relief, albeit not totally, because with all this issue of going to court, I think we can still sleep with our two eyes closed. But I do understand that there is a need for us to test our laws in court. We build what we call whether you call it a criminal jurisdiction, criminal jurisprudence, or whether it's whatever jurisprudence we're talking about. But the case's point is that, am I saying on that?
Yes, you are. Please
Yes, go ahead. Go ahead.
The case in point is this Adamawa. I think the lawyers, they have what they call it sometimes a no case submission. Now, Binani, I don't know whoever is advising Binani to go to court, because what she's pursuing is a nullity in law. I'm not a lawyer, but I've been a journalist all my life, and I've covered elections. I have analyzed elections, and I do understand that what she's pursuing is a nullity. And of course, it's going to end up in, it's going to end up in what the Americans call a cul-de-sac, brick wall. Because the man who declared her the winner of that election is not permitted by law. It's not constitutionally recognized to so do. The person that the law, whether it's the electoral act or even all the body of laws we have regarding election in this country, in that position, that responsibility vested upon the collation officer, who in our current laws of our land now, maybe from the academia, maybe a professor or a doctor, but that a resident electoral commission to now usurp that power, as I said, is a contravention of the relevant laws that guide the electoral issues in Nigeria. So going to court alone is also just like you want to slap, it's just spitting on the face of the legal entity committee in this country. So that's why I'm saying that whatever Aisha Binani is doing, it will amount to nothing. And those who are beating the drum for her right now may just be doing so to make some money, because lawyers will always tell you, don't worry, let's go to court. We have a lacuna we are going to be latching in on. But there's no lacuna here, because the law that set up even this election is explicit that elections must be, we must vote, the votes must be counted, and that it is the only the collation officer and not the resident electoral officer that is permitted and that is recognized by law to so do. So that's why I'm saying that whatever Aisha Binani is doing now is just going to be an exercise of utility.
All right, Mr. Charles, let's look at the wreck himself, who has been in hiding. He's not been found up until now, and there seems to be no official statements. Do you think that INEC is doing enough to actually find him? Do you think there's enough resources and time and investigation? Because we do know that if he is to be found, he will be found. And why I'm asking is because There are claims that a few days ago he had sent a letter to the police headquarters in Abuja stating that it was actually Binani who won the elections, and that it was the PDP and the people who worked with him, two of them, their names fail me right now, that they were actually working with him, but in true sense, they were working against the APC, and they actually changed the figures. For someone to be able to send a detailed letter and still in hiding, what does this tell us about the situation currently?
Okay, let me attempt to unpack it, because there are so many questions to build up in one.
Absolutely.
Number one is that whether INEC is doing enough. We clearly hear without ambiguity that INEC does not have prosecutorial power. All right, so let's establish that INEC cannot prosecute. INEC can only go to the agencies that are vested with investigation. INEC can also investigate, but that after they have maybe spotted any infraction in the system, then they now pass the baton over to the agencies that are charged with the responsibility of arrest, investigation, and prosecution of whoever has come foul of the law. In this case, it's Huduari. Huduari, of course, as I said earlier, whatever he's claiming now, I think he's just doing what they call a whitewashing of the mess that he caused in the system. He has caused INEC embarrassment. He has caused our country embarrassment. He has caused even the laws embarrassment in this country. Because I'm sure he knows there are people who were bent on two things to happen in Adamawa State. I must tell you those two things. Number one is that there are forces within the system who want to ensure that they cut off Atiku's relevance, Atiku's powers from it. Now that he has lost the election, anyway, the court is just to decide whether Tinubu's election will be upheld. But now that he lost the election at the first instance, now he has lost relevance in the central scene. Now they also went back to Adamawa State, his own home base, to ensure that he doesn't have any relevance at all. That is why they were so bent on ensuring that this woman takes over there. Then it will now be a clean sweep for APC at that region. That's number one. Number two, there are also some people who were also hell bent on ensuring that the history of Aisha Binani being the very first female governor in Nigeria emerges. These are two very, very glaring forces within the system that were playing that game. And then they have so much money they will spend, and of course, you do know that there was this allegation of about 2 billion naira exchange, even though that has been disputed. So those things are hanging, they are all hiding at the fringes. You understand? Then number two, for this man to also bring out the letter, as I said, whatever he said may have no meaning. Even if indeed Aisha Binani won the election, are there no stated processes to be followed? Are there no processes, no methodology that will be followed for you to announce somebody a winner? Why rush to national TV to tell us that a winner has emerged when the collation of election was still ongoing? So whatever he may be doing is just face saving. Whatever he may be doing, I don't know. I've not read that letter. I just saw analysis on it in some newspapers. Whatever Buhari is doing now is just damage control, and he's also doing a whitewashing of himself and those who sent him to carry out that infraction against the Nigerian state.
All right, and in your opinion, do you think that we are really just... Would you see this as a waste of time, the conversations and whatnot? Because, people would say that if we were a serious country, Yunusa Ari would not, be having these conversations. The INEC, even if you said, it's clear INEC doesn't have prosecutorial powers, but the government agencies that, are responsible and should have taken action, would have taken action days ago, weeks ago even. And is this really just a waste of time and, conversations that will continue to, give Nigerians things to talk about, but eventually nothing would happen?
Yes, I agree with you. They just find a way to just throw some things. Let's divert attention. Let's throw in this piece of information. Let people will discuss it, analyze it, and then another one will come. We will throw that into the trash basket, and move on to the next. Now, if you look at what is happening now, as I said, just to tie into what you said, it may both in the short term and both in the short run and long run, it may just be something that I feel that, just as you said, to borrow your phrase, a waste of time. But why do I say so? You just see that the laws are very clear. The relevant sections of the body of laws regarding election, very clear about that. Now, you're also thinking that the security agencies are not doing enough. I also agree with you. But you see, if you wind down a bit to maybe a couple of weeks back, when this issue first came into our national life to a hit, you realize that INEC was, supposedly so, but like a lame duck. They couldn't actually do anything. The police couldn't do anything until the president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria came from Hajj, and then he now issued a statement. Now, everybody is looking towards the body language of the president. Except the president says anything, nobody does anything. Even in this case, like they said, Buhari is hiding. It is only when the president says that this Buhari must be picked up, maybe giving them maybe an ultimatum. But even the ultimatum may also work, because there have been several instances in the past where the order of the president have been flouted. A case in point is when I can't recall who was the IG that was there that was asked to relocate to Benue State in the very early stages of this administration. But did the man go there? He didn't go. In defiance to the president order. Was the man punished? Well, you may say yes and no. Well, the yes is that was going because he was removed from and he was changed. But was he ever prosecuted? The answer is no. So even in this case, everyone, including you in that studio, we are waiting for the body language of the president to say what we might do next. The police is waiting for the body language of the president. The military is waiting for the body language of the president. Even INEC is waiting for the body language of the president. The president came the other day, just said, okay, the man should be suspended. But did he say he should be arrested? Well, I didn't read that in the news. So let's all wait for the body language of the president. Maybe the president may very soon issue another statement. But again, this president very slow to acting. So if he's slow to acting, then whatever the case is now may just outlive his administration that, of course, is winding down. In a few weeks hence, is going to be out of the system. Then what happens next shall be passed over to the incoming government.
Well, thank you so much, Mr. Charles, for joining us. As a matter of fact, on that last statement you made, yes, there were indications from yesterday's papers that he may be let off the hook, looking at the current situation and some things that may favor it. But we'll get you back to join us again so we can have an extensive discussion as we count down to the inauguration come May 29th. Thank you once again for your time.
My pleasure. Thank you very much. Always. Thank you.
All right. Okay, so we've talked about a lot of stories coming from Nigeria. It's time to find out what people are saying on the social media space, and that will be on our still to come here on Breakfast Central.
Yes, still this morning, Empress Njama's ex-lover arrested in Liberia.
I wonder why he was smiling that way,
And also we'll share with you what our top story of the day is.
Welcome back. You're watching Trend Wave now, where we bring to you all the stories trending on the social media space. Now, tongues have been wagging all over the social media space following the announcement by the federal government of Nigeria on Wednesday of the procurement of 40 buses at the cost of $1.2 million to evacuate at least 2,400 stranded Nigerians out of the war-torn Sudan. The Minister of Foreign Affairs, Geoffrey Onyema, affirmed this at the end of the Federal Executive Council meeting presided over by President Muhammadu Buhari on Wednesday at the presidential villa in Abuja. But it seems like these figures aren't pleasing to so many Nigerians who say that the money claimed to be used for the procurement of 40 buses is rather on the high side. Let's take a look at some of the reactions very quickly. Now, that is the first post by Abike Dabre. It says, late in the night, we'll get a clearer view in the morning, but in that dark shot are buses that will convey Nigerian students to nearby borders in Egypt. That was a long before post, but let's see how people are reacting to this story. Barfreeze goes on to say, but they are just moving them to a nearby border in Egypt before airlifting them home. What will happen to the bought buses? Now, that's a big question on the mouth of Nigerians. We'll take a look at how more Nigerians are reacting to this story. I am H.OC says, any given opportunity where una see, una must use and loot money. How can you purchase 40 buses for $1.2 million? EFCC know they see all these kind of things, do their investigations. I'm tired of Nigeria. That's according to I am H.OC. The sought after says, as a Ghanaian, my heart is broken. How does this even make sense? How can your politicians be so heartless and cruel? I really feel for Nigerians. Well, interesting one. This one's from Sober Drunk. Sober Drunk goes on to say $1.2 million isn't too much for 40 buses. That amounts to about $22 million per bus, as long as the buses will be brought back to Nigeria and maintained as national assets. So that's according to Sober Drunk. But of course, there are many reactions to this story. People are wondering, why do we have to use that amount for just buses? Are these buses flying? Do these buses fly? Or what happens to these buses after? Like, people are just wondering. But let's take the story now. Let's move on now, where the Liberian National Police has announced the arrest of Nicholas Jack Davis, also known as George Wade, the ex-boyfriend of actress Empress Njama, for victimizing over 20 women. Now, let's recall that Wade had fled the country in January after releasing actress Njama's nude videos on social media. Now, in a trending video on social media on Monday, Wade was spotted in handcuffs while being led out by security operatives, and the Liberian police revealed this in a live broadcast shared on the agency's Facebook page on Monday following his arrest. Well, he's currently being investigated at the central headquarters in Liberia, and we don't know yet if he will be extradited to Nigeria. Reacting to this, Empress Njama took to her social media page to drop her 2 cents. Now, that's it from Empress Njama. She goes on to say, when you touch a child of grace, you'll be disgraced. Never ever underestimate the power of prayer. Talk less and do more. Never be ashamed to tell your story. Women are strong. Women, you can change the narrative, walk with your head up high, and she goes on and on and on. Basically talking about the fact that she's a child of grace and God has made this possible for him to get arrested. But let's take a look at how people are reacting to this particular one on social media. Future_clinic says, Dear Empress Njama, I think you should just be mute and do more observations. Reacting to your fans' negative comments would only stir up negative emotional behavior in you. That's my advice as a counselor. You are a strong superwoman. More comments on this story. Chris Oje says, child of grace, what you did is what we expect as mistakes from girls under 18, and we would let it slide. A woman at 42 trending for her nudes everywhere, and you're using the word child of grace. Hide yourself in shame, I beg. That's according to Chris Oje. Ikechukwu goes on to say, what's making this man smile? Are you guys sure this man is normal or is not? Are you sure he's not on drugs? Because why is he smiling? More reactions to this story. Gentle King says, Nigerians start prayer when they get into trouble, when they fornicate. Them know they pray, basically saying that Nigerians just use prayer for everything. Like, it's just almost like ridiculous. Chick_Avenue says, looking at the guy, I wonder what attracted her to him. They should make him pay all the blackmail money he collected, plus extra for damages, and also sponge all our nudes and the other people's nudes he has from his system. See him looking like the abomination of the Ammonite. But what is interesting about this story is that Nigerian actress Inedo has somehow been caught in the web of this drama after reports of an affair also with George Wade. And now reacting to the reports to this story on Tuesday, Iniedo downplayed the romantic affair rumors, explaining that Wade had contacted her posing as a movie producer who wanted to cast her in his movie. She also revealed that during a conversation, he drifted and started proposing a relationship with her, which she declined instantly. To be honest, the updates of this story are quite shocking. It seems to be developing continuously, but we'll continue to keep an eye on this story. But let me bring Osaoge and Joe into this conversation.
Interesting stories there. From of course, the controversy with the Nigerian government evacuating Nigerians from Sudan to Egypt. I understand the controversy, but I've also gotten to take a look at the figures. It says 40 buses. They're trying to evacuate about 3,500 Nigerians, and of course it's about $30,000 per bus with the logistics company that is moving Nigerians. So that's why it has amounted to 1.2 million. But here's the thing. One thing that people didn't really pay attention to is that in times of war or in increased security situations, the price of goods and services skyrockets, crazy. So the bus that normally would have maybe been a $5,000 bus, or $2,000 bus, now would be as high as 30,000. And the letter that I saw from them, I haven't verified, but the letter I saw from them was saying that it was the cheapest that they could find, and that's why they're using that particular company. So it might not be that the Nigerian government is trying to rip its anybody's trying to rip the Nigerian government off.
I'm going to go with Saudi. Nigerians just have trust issues generally.
Say that again.
I said Nigerians just have trust issues generally when it has to do with anything with the government.
Yeah, true.
Yeah, I think a lack of trust has been a major one for Nigerians during this entire political scene. So it's normal that when anything comes up, they question it, which is not bad. But we're just going to put it to our viewers who are Nigerians. Do the math. You do the calculation. We've done ours here in the studio.
Yeah.
And we'll ask you to do yours.
And this is from the information that we have. 3,500 Nigerians, 40 buses, $30,000 per bus. It does, equal 1.2 million. And this is not holding brief for NEMA or for the Nigerian government. There could be, a scam here somewhere. But that's their explanation, and it does add up. And this is one of the reasons why there is a trust deficit. I keep talking about this. Remember, a couple of weeks ago, somebody spent 12 billion naira to buy fire trucks, about 10 or 12 fire trucks for the Nigerian government, which till date, nobody has been able to explain why those 10 fire or 12 fire trucks cost 12 billion naira.
Absolutely.
Okay. All right. And of course, Empress Njama and Iniedo and that individual.
I keep wondering, for me, why is he always smiling? What's funny?
Maybe he just has a smiley face.
No. What's funny? You are blackmailing women and you're smiling. I think you should face the wrath of the law. When it's done in Liberia, you should come down to Nigeria, face the one in Nigeria, go back to the other ladies he's done it to as well. Every country, he should have a taste of what, I
agree. Whenever there's these cases of women being blackmailed or being victimized or, revenge porn, I always, of course, would like to see that it's properly investigated. And if the man is found guilty, he should face the wrath of the law. So
he definitely should face
this is a plus, in the fight against revenge porn and the fight against women being victimized.
Take a look at that picture in the video. Why is he smiling?
I have no idea. Good luck to him. But of course, congratulations, to Empress Njama and every other person who has been victimized by this individual. We hope that they get the justice that they deserve. Thanks
and let me quickly add, yes, I think Empress has been vindicated. When she came out to say this, a lot of people chastised her on social media. I don't have time reading those things, but I think I stumbled on that and I went through. Based on knowing and all that. So I saw that and I saw people say all sorts, like, come on. But now I think it's clear. It's there in the open. Thank you, Lizzie.
It's my pleasure.
All right. Okay, so talking of what's trending, let's tell you what will be trending here on News Central later today.
Yes, at 11 a.m. West African time, we're bringing you Business Edge.
1 p.m. it will be showing and it will be live beyond the continent.
And at 5 p.m. West African time, Report Desk Africa comes your way.
Yep, don't miss Report Desk Africa, where you've got Bernard Akede,
Blessings Mosugu,
Adeshewa Odushoga, Niyo Moni, and Bettina Nweli. I mean, they're amazing. They're amazing. And then you have the reporters as well from different parts of Africa, because that's what we do, because we love you. That's why we do that for you. Okay? You get that?
It's time to say goodbye.
So, okay, that laugh is a laughter that's saying, well, I don't know.
Thanks a lot for staying with us and for sharing your Thursday morning with us. We have, of course, stories that we've promised to continue to give feedback on, and that is, of course, follow up on, and that is the updates on the story in Kenya,
Sudan,
of course, South African story with President Cyril Ramaphosa and his thoughts on the ICC, and of course in Nigeria with the security situation here in Nigeria, and of course as we try to bring Nigerians back from Sudan or take them to safety. So we'll continue to share with you.
Absolutely.
I am Osaogi Ogbon.
And I'm Joe Hansen. Bonjour, Africa.